Discover the incredible truth, the inspiring transformation of the Glass Body King revealed after years in the shadows. Nick Harper once stood tall, the pride of Cedar Springs, a king among craftsmen, gracing galleries from coast to coast with his dazzling glass art. But now, sitting in his quiet studio, the echoes of vibrant pieces gone by loom heavy. The glass glimmers on the shelves, a forgotten dream against the backdrop of bills stacked high. In a town where whispers of struggle linger, his heart beats with a mix of despair and loneliness. Sarah, his loving wife, gently finds her way to him amidst the silence. Her soft touch warms his calloused hands. Bella and Max, their spirited kids, dart in and out, laughter like music hinting at the resilience within. To Nick, they represent the unwavering love that stands strong against the rising tides of judgment from the townsfolk. Pity painted in their eyes talks louder than their words. He feels a shackle of inadequacy as he catches their glances. To them, he is merely a once great artist whose light has dimmed. Then, one fateful afternoon, a blast from the past walks in Jake, his childhood friend, back from military service. Nick's heart swells with pride, but it stings too. Memories flood back of laughter, dreams, and the conversations that once filled their days with ambition. Over coffee, they reminisce, but beneath the surface, Nick feels the sharp edge of jealousy cut deeper with each of Jake's tales of success and art shows. You wouldn't believe the crowd. Jake's words carry an exhilarating promise as Nick forces a smile, his chest tightening, just as life threatens to bury him under its weight. A local tragedy strikes. A fire devours the community center, a symbol of connection, of home. Watching his neighbors rally together to salvage what remains ignites something within him. Heartache transforms into fierce determination. His workshop floods with electric energy as he pours his soul into a single piece of art. He wants to create something that not only embodies the spirit of Cedar Springs but its resilience too. In those vibrant swirls of glass, he captures the laughter, the sorrow, the hopes and struggles of those around him. Each crack and curve is a tribute to those who have grown with him, who have stood by his side. But doubt sneaks in like a thief in the night. Will they see him? Can his art bring them back to him? Can it bridge the gap that widened through misunderstanding? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As whispers of his upcoming show circulate through the town, Nick stands in front of the unfinished piece, uncertainty creeping into his mind. The night before the big reveal, he feels emotions peak: anger, hope, desperation. Can art really heal? Will his family's unwavering belief in him be enough to chase the shadows away? Clutching a small sculpture, warmth fills his chest. They share a bond stronger than any judgment. Can this one moment reignite not just his career but their community spirit? With dawn breaking, he readies himself, the anticipation thick around him, as the next chapter of his journey beckons. Will this be his resurrection or his final bow? The morning sun peeked through the dusty windows of Nick's studio, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. The air hummed with tension. Nick took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of molten glass and varnish, a blend that used to bring him joy but now only served as a reminder of his once promising career. Today, however, was different. Today held the weight of possibility that he stepped back to survey his piece, a towering sculpture that intertwined shards of glass in a mesmerizing swirl. Each piece represented something: the laughter of children at the community center, the scent of fresh bread from the bakery next door, the warmth of his family gathered around the dinner table. Yet, there was still that nagging voice in the back of his head. What if no one came? What if everyone saw his work and only remembered the man he used to be? Sarah entered the studio, her eyes bright with excitement. It's going to be incredible, Nick. I can feel it. Her enthusiasm was infectious, but he couldn't shake the heaviness that clung to him like a damp cloth. Do you really think so? He asked, shifting his gaze from the sculpture to her. Absolutely. You've poured everything into this piece. The town needs to see the heart of Cedar Springs again, and you're just the person to show it. He nodded, letting her words seep into his resolve. But doubt crept back in. The crowd he imagined gathering at the unveiling filled his mind with questions. Would they see the artist he'd become or the one who faded away? As the afternoon wore on, villagers began to arrive, buzzing with a mix of curiosity and excitement. The gallery, temporarily set up in the remains of the community center, hummed with voices. Nick caught snippets of discussion. Did you hear about Nick? I hope this piece is as good as they say. Standing at the entrance, he felt like a tightrope walker, balancing between fear and hope. Jake was among the crowd, calling out to friends, encouraging them to see Nick's work. The warmth of their presence built a fire in his belly. Maybe this was the moment he'd been waiting for, maybe he could finally reclaim his place among them. As the crowd began to fill the gallery, Nick trembled slightly, but he forced himself forward. He reached out to the piece, fingers grazing the cool surface as he shared the story behind it. This isn't just glass. It's a piece of us, of Cedar Springs. Every curve carries our spirit. He watched their faces as he spoke, searching for connection, for understanding. He poured everything he had into those words, and bit by bit, the damp cloth of doubt began to lift. The reactions were mixed, some frowned, studying the sculpture closely, while others smiled, their eyes lighting up with recognition. Nick's heart raced with hopes and fears. Would it be enough? Then it happened. Bella and Max dashed in, their faces glowing with excitement. They ran up to him, beaming. Dad, it's beautiful. Max exclaimed, his small hands pointing at the vibrant piece. That was it. Their belief ignited something within him he couldn't ignore. Suddenly, the fire that had consumed the community center felt like a distant memory. Today was a day of rebirth. Nick locked eyes with Sarah across the crowd, and in that moment, he realized that the real transformation was happening inside him. Just as he was about to speak again, a voice broke through the noise. Nick! Is this really yours? A woman he recognized from the hardware store stepped forward, eyes wide. Of course it is. Nick replied, but deep down, he felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on him, waiting for the final reveal. As he prepared for the inevitable question, a hush fell over the crowd, and he wondered, was this the beginning, or could it all slip away again? The moment felt electric, charged with possibility. Would they embrace this new vision of him? The weight of the moment wrapped around him as he answered, yes, it belongs to all of us. But before he could finish, a sudden crash sounded from the back of the gallery, reverberating through the air like a bolt of lightning. What intruded upon his moment of triumph? What disaster awaited his fragile redemption? The crashing noise echoed like thunder, slicing through the anticipation that had settled over the crowd. Eyes darted toward the back of the gallery, where a metal sculpture had toppled, sending shards of metal clattering against the wooden floor. Gasps filled the air, and a collective tension gripped the room. Nick's heart sank as he turned to see what had happened. Are you okay? Sarah rushed to the scene, her concern palpable. Nick felt an instinctive pull of dread. This was supposed to be his moment, a celebration of rebirth. But now chaos threatened to shatter that fragile joy. He didn't need to look back to know that gasps of shock had turned to murmurs of disappointment. He briefly considered running to the fallen sculpture, but dread rooted him to the spot. Everyone, please stay back. A voice shouted from the crowd. It was Jake, pushing his way forward. Give them some space. Nick's pulse quickened. He glanced up, catching sight of a few familiar faces. They were concerned but also curious. The woman from the hardware store was still staring, eyes flickering between him and the downed sculpture, as if assessing whether this disaster could be tied to his work. Sir, you might want to check if anyone is hurt, another villager called out, tone tinged with urgency. He took a deep breath, pulling his thoughts together. Yeah, just a moment. He called back, but his voice felt hollow. Would this misfortune taint the unveiling? His sculpture was supposed to be a symbol of hope, yet here was a literal representation of everything that could go wrong. That he forced himself to step forward, towards the noise, his stomach twisting with each step. As he approached the back, he saw a small crowd gathering around the twisted metal. Among them stood a young girl, probably no more than 9, who looked dazed. Nick's breath hitched when he noticed the blood trickling from her hand. "Stay right there," he ordered, panic surging as he gently pushed past the crowd. "Let me help." He knelt beside her, heart pounding in his chest. "I'm okay," she whispered, attempting to suppress tears. "Just a little cut." He examined her hand, which had a small but deep gash. "This needs to be cleaned up," he said quietly, looking up to see a knot of adults watching with worried expressions. "Can someone call for a medic?" "Nick?" Sarah's voice cut through the noise. He turned to see her standing a few feet away, her brow furrowed with concern. "What happened?" "Just a accident," he replied, forcing a smile for the girl's sake. "We'll get you sorted out, okay?" He gently wrapped a bandana he had stashed in his pocket around her hand. As he worked, a sense of awareness washed over him. The crowd had shifted. Their focus was no longer solely on the sculpture. They were watching him, concerned about him, and the girl. This was no longer just about a piece of glass or metal, it was about connection, community, and the bond formed in moments of vulnerability. The murmurs changed tone, softening to words of encouragement. "It's all right," someone called. "Help is on the way." He felt an unexpected swell of gratitude for everyone there. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the disaster he feared. Perhaps, by showing up, they were forging a deeper bond together. This wasn't merely a gallery opening, it was a space of shared experiences, laughter, fear, and healing. As the girl's face brightened with relief, Nick caught a glimpse of Sarah standing close, pride replacing the worry etched on her face. "You're doing great," she whispered, and for the first time that afternoon, he felt his pulse steady itself, but just as he found his footing, a voice from the back shouted loudly, "Hey, what's going on back there?" A chill crept down his spine. The voice belonged to someone he hadn't expected to see. A figure he associated with the shadows of his past. Why were they here? What did they want? In that moment, Nick's heart raced, and confusion seized him once again. Was this unveiling about to reveal more than just his art? Nick turned slowly, dread pooling in his stomach. The crowd's chatter faded into a hum as his gaze settled on the figure in the back of the gallery. It was Carla, an old friend turned bitter rival, a shadow from a past filled with dreams now twisted by betrayal. Her presence felt like an unwelcome gust of wind, stirring memories he thought he had long buried. "Nick," she called out, her voice ringing clear over the murmurs, drawing every eye toward him. "What a spectacular disaster, don't you think?" Laughter bubbled from the crowd, but it was sharp, uncomfortable. Nick clenched his fists, anger bubbling just beneath his calm exterior. This wasn't the moment for old grudges. Not when he was trying to help the girl and prove to himself and everyone else that he belonged here. "Just a slip-up, Carla," he shot back, forcing himself to breathe deeply. "The art will speak for itself once this is sorted out." "It's more than just a slip," she quipped, stepping forward, her heels clicking assertively against the wooden floor. "It's a sign, Nick. You can't pretend this isn't a reflection of the chaos in your work." He could feel the eyes of everyone trained on them, the tension palpable. He wanted to tell her to leave, that this was neither the time nor the place for her taunts. Yet he also saw the flickers of concern on the faces surrounding him, the locals who he wanted to impress, to connect with. "Enough." Sarah's voice broke through the gathering storm. She stepped in front of Nick, shielding him from Carla's barbs. "This is about the girl, not your old arguments. Can we please focus on what's important?" The crowd seemed to exhale collectively, drawn to Sarah's authority. Nick felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. She was right, The girl needed attention, and they all had to remember that kindness overpowers bitterness. Carla paused, her expression shifting ever so slightly, perhaps recognizing the change in crowd dynamics. Yet, Nick could see the determination glinting in her eyes. "I just came to see my old friend's big moment. And look how dazzling it turned out." "Carla, this isn't a game," he said, frustration leaking through his carefully maintained calm. "You know that." But just then, the medic arrived, parting the crowd as they stepped back to make way. Nick turned his focus back on the girl, kneeling even lower. "Don't worry, they're here to help," he reassured her, though worry still crawled across his skin. The medic examined her hand, gently peeling back the bandana Nick had tied. "Hey there, little one. You've got some brave bones in you," he said, turning the tension into something lighter. The girl peeked at Nick with wide eyes, relief flooding her expression as the medic spoke kindly. As the first aid treatment began, Nick stole a glance at Carla, still standing at the edge of the scene, arms crossed. That familiar pang of rivalry twisted in his gut. How could they be rivals when they had once shared the same dreams? "Maybe you should find something else to do, Carla," he said quietly, so only she could hear. "Maybe rediscover why you loved art in the first place, instead of ripping others down." A flicker of surprise passed over her features, and for a split second, she looked vulnerable. But it vanished quickly, replaced by a cool smirk. "I wouldn't expect you to understand, Nick. But keep watching, the show's just starting." The girl's laughter broke through the moment, the sweetest sound he'd ever heard. It was a reminder that beauty still existed, even amidst chaos. It grounded him, though the echoes of Carla's words lingered heavy in the air. The girl hugged her bandaged hand, her small smile igniting joy in the faces surrounding them. Nick realized that perhaps moments like these, moments of support and genuine connection, were worth celebrating, even in the face of adversity. But with Carla looming in the gallery, ready to unleash her next move, he couldn't shake the feeling that this evening still held its fair share of uncertainty. The worst might not be behind him after all. What was she planning? And would he be strong enough to face it when it arrived? As the medic tended to the girl, Nick felt the weight of the crowd shifting back to normalcy, but the tension with Carla remained a heavy cloud above him. She watched intently, her posture unwavering, as if she were waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. He glanced toward Sarah, who was still conversing with a few curious onlookers. They were no longer fixated on the incident but rather on the girl's laughter filling the space. "Focus on the art, Nick," he muttered under his breath, forcing his attention back to the gallery. The walls were adorned with vibrant pieces, the very creations that had once felt like extensions of his soul. They seemed to resonate differently now, profound and yet fragile, much like the relationship he had shared with Carla. "Thank you, Mr. Medic," the girl said softly, her spirit not dulled by her injury. Her smile was contagious, and with each moment, he felt more of his own anxiety dissipate. Nick knew he had to nurture this spark of joy, reminding himself that the show was still for her. It was her moment. Turning to the gallery, he let out a soft breath, willing himself to exude confidence. He stepped further into the light, ready to engage the crowd again. "I'm still opening the exhibit, everyone. Please, let us celebrate the courage it takes to create and to share," he announced, forcing a smile as he met their eyes. Carla's laughter echoed behind him. "Courage? Or foolhardiness?" She shot back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The crowd turned, eyes darting between him and her, the excitement of the moment suddenly heavy with potential conflict. "Let us keep things positive," Sarah interjected, standing tall. "The girl showed us all what real bravery looks like. Let us celebrate her, not detract from this beautiful moment." Nick could see the crowd rallying behind Sarah. The laughter, the understanding, it was shifting, reinforcing his confidence. But that glint in Carla's eye didn't fade. Instead, it seemed to sharpen, a reminder that the battle was far from over. "Sarah's right. This is about art, remember?" He took another step forward. "Art should inspire us, push us to reflect and grow. That's what I hope this show will do. Then why are you still so afraid, Nick? Carla's voice cut through as she stepped closer, the tension thickening around her words. You're still worried about proving yourself, aren't you? You weren't there when we were working together. You didn't walk the same path I did. His breath hitched. She was striking at a core wound, twisting the knife deep. Did he want to revisit their shared past, where ambition and dreams financed their friendship? Would he be able to show her the vision he had now? Right or wrong, I'm here now. He called out, feeling his heart pick up its pace. I'm choosing to focus on the present. Why hold on to bitterness when there's so much beauty in camaraderie? Light applause began to ripple through the crowd, a collective release. Nick felt a spark of rejuvenation as he took in their expressions, longing for battle and yet holding on to hope. The medic finished up, his hands raised in confidence as he glanced around the room. All right everyone, she's good to go. The girl grinned widely, her joy evident. In that moment, Nick realized he didn't need Carla's approval. The warmth in the gallery was alive, together they could foster a creative community, a place where growth thrived over rivalry, but as he turned back to the front lines of his exhibit, he caught one last glimpse of Carla's expression. It was seething, shadowed, a storm brewing in her eyes. Enjoy your moment, Nick, she said, her voice low and dangerously calm. You'll need it. Just you wait. A shiver ran down his spine. What did she mean? With adrenaline coursing through him, Nick stepped closer to Sarah and the girl. The crowd was waiting for something more. What was Carla planning next, and how would it shake the fragile peace he'd begun to build? Sarah could sense the shift in Nick's energy as he turned back to the crowd. The warmth he had felt moments ago now felt tinged with unease. Are you okay? She whispered, leaning slightly closer. I don't know. Just feeling the weight of it all, he admitted, tightening his grip on the podium. Carla's words, they linger. Forget her, Sarah encouraged softly. This is about the art and the girl. Let us focus on that. He nodded, even as Carla's warning lingered in the air, heavy like the grayness just before a storm. Distracting himself, he turned his attention to the girl, her expression radiant as she shared her delight with the onlookers. There was magic in the way she smiled, a magic he longed to capture in his paintings yet couldn't quite express. As people began to mingle again, admiring the displays around them, Nick felt his resolve strengthen. All right, let us do this, he said, finding a steadiness in his heart. Thank you all for being here. Together, let us celebrate creativity, its power to heal and uplift. The crowd clapped, applause ringing like music, but it still felt strained, as if a thread of uncertainty ran beneath the surface. He launched into explanations of his artwork, sharing the stories behind each piece. It felt familiar, a rhythm that had once been second nature, a dance that brought him joy. Art can provoke, he said, gesturing toward a bright, frenetic painting. It can challenge us to confront our truths. At that moment, a commotion at the gallery's entrance caught his eye. A tall figure burst through the doors, their presence commanding immediate attention. It was Carla, flanked by a few members of the press. Let us take a moment to celebrate this exhibit. She announced loudly, her voice cutting through the celebration like a knife. Though I must say, the artistry seems overshadowed by, shall we say, questionable choices. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Nick's heart sank. This was not the disruption he needed. Carla, please, he began, but she continued, her eyes flickering with challenge. Nick's bravado doesn't change the truth, she said, her tone dripping with accusation. You want to talk about growth? You're hiding behind this facade. How many of you recognize this man as the same person who? Shrieks of surprise rippled through the crowd. Whispers grew louder, drowning out his attempts to regain control. You weren't there, Nick called back, his voice rising above the chaos. I've transformed. This isn't about the past, it's about the future we create together. Is it? Carla shot back. Would the future really include the ones you've stepped on to get here? A silence fell as her words lingered ominously, puncturing the fragile bubble of unity Nick had tried to build. He felt the crowd shifting once more, their excitement morphing into doubt. Desperate to reclaim the moment, he looked to Sarah and found her face hardened. "Help me, please," he whispered, his voice trembling. But her eyes held a glimmer of fear, caught between standing beside Nick or standing up against Carla. "Why did you let her back?" Sarah finally asked. "I thought today would be different." Not for her just then, the girl, still glowing, caught Carla's eye and chimed in, "Art should be free. It's about what we create, not what's in the past." The crowd began murmuring, nodding slowly, grounding themselves in the girl's innocent wisdom. "Exactly," interrupted Sarah, the glimmer of hope returning to her face. "This is about all of us. We can't let one person." But before Sarah could finish, Carla shot them both a look of disdain. "You think you're safe behind childish sentiments? Just wait till the real truth emerges." Nick's stomach twisted. What did she mean? What truth? With the crowd's attention now redirected to the tension brewing at the front of the gallery, Nick realized he needed to act. "Enough," he declared, forcing himself to stand tall against Carla's storm. "We're here to create and inspire, not berate one another." The crowd stirred again, the air electric with conflicting emotions. Carla smirked, but somewhere in that crowd of faces, Nick sensed a shift. "Let's open up the conversation," he urged, looking into the sea of uncertain faces. "Who wants to share their thoughts on what we've seen today?" But just as he took a breath, ready to plunge into the unknown, the gallery doors banged open again. The unexpected trot of another arrival echoed through the space, leading Nick to wonder what else was about to unfold. The sound of the doors crashing open added an electric jolt to the atmosphere, drawing every eye in the room toward the entrance. In stepped a familiar silhouette, one that brought an inexplicable chill to Nick's spine. It was Marcus, his former mentor, the man who had once shaped his artistic vision but had also been the source of his deepest regrets. "Nick," Marcus's voice boomed, rich and sure, drowning out the whispers that swirled like low clouds overhead. He advanced into the gallery, every step confident, his presence captive as ever. "We need to talk." There was an audible shift in the crowd, a mix of surprise and intrigue. Nick's heart raced. He had hoped his past would remain buried, shared only in confessions to Sarah, not paraded in front of the people he sought to inspire. "Now?" Nick managed to ask, trying to keep his composure. "Right here, right now," Marcus said, his tone challenging. He stepped forward, eyes glinting with a fire that demanded attention. "You can't hide behind your paintings forever, my friend." "I'm not hiding," Nick shot back defensively, but even he could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Carla grinned, sensing the tension. "Oh, this is rich. The past doesn't just walk back in, it storms through the door." A quiet ensued as the audience awaited the unfolding drama. The balance of power hung precariously in the air, waiting for someone to tip the scale. Nick glanced at Sarah, who appeared stunned, her eyes darting between him and Marcus. He could see the conflict swirling in her, a desire to protect him, mingled with an instinct to seek the truth. In that moment, Nick longed for her reassurance. "Why are you here?" he finally asked Marcus, swallowing hard. "I thought you were done with me." "Can a teacher ever truly be done with a student?" Marcus replied, his voice a tantalizing mix of patronization and concern. "You're at a critical junction, Nick. I want to make sure you're not stepping backward while pretending to step forward." Nick felt anger and vulnerability collide inside him. "I'm not that guy anymore. You taught me to shape my own path. Or maybe you're just trying to reshape a broken one." "Look at this exhibit," Marcus gestured around the space, where colors danced and emotions flickered in the air. "Is it truly your vision, or is it an escape from who you really are?" The stirrings of dissent flourished, crumpled expressions revealing doubts that had taken root. The girl, still glowing but unsure now, huddled closer to Sarah. Nick felt frustration and fear rise within him, battling against the idea that his past could still haunt him. "What do you want from me, Marcus?" he demanded, voice thick with emotion. "To confront your truth. Because letting this slide means you're just another artist playing dress-up, pretending your past doesn't exist. The truth matters, Nick. It's the foundation of real art." He heard the truth in those words, but didn't want to admit it. The memories flooded back dark days, broken promises, people he'd wronged in the name of ambition. "I can't be that man anymore," Nick asserted, taking a shaky breath as he fought a barrage of memories. "I've changed." A beat of silence hung before Marcus stepped closer, their eyes locking. "Then prove it. Tell them everything. Empty your soul on this canvas, right here and now. But be warned, it might break you again." The air thickened, and somewhere in the audience, a murmur rippled through the crowd, the gravity of Marcus's challenge palpable. Nick's pulse quickened, and he could feel every set of eyes locking onto him, waiting. "Will you stand with me?" He turned to Sarah, desperate for her strength. "Help me face this." She hesitated, fear clouding her face, yet he saw a flicker of her fiery spirit igniting. "Together," she said softly, her voice warming. "We can do this." As Nick stood on the precipice of his choice, he realized the moment of truth had arrived, but it wasn't just about art or Carla's words. It was about healing and facing demons long buried. But would he have the courage to strip away the facade for everyone to see? Would he really expose the pain and the journey that made him who he was today? In that charged moment, as he looked out over the uncertain faces of the crowd, Nick felt a flicker of hope mixed with sheer terror. "Let us begin," he whispered, and the world around him faded into a hush as he prepared to reveal everything. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, a loud crash erupted from the gallery door again as another unexpected visitor intruded on this fraught moment. The door swung wide, and a heavy silence followed, punctuated only by the sharp intake of breaths. Standing there, framed against the lights of the gallery, was Mia, Nick's sister. Her presence felt like the rising tide, stirring memories and revealing unhealed wounds. The moment hung, suspended in the air like an unfinished note. "Mia." Nick's voice cracked, shaking free of the chaos in his mind. He hadn't seen her in ages, and the shock of her sudden appearance sent a tremor through him. Her expression was caught between fear and determination, and it was clear she had come to say something. "What are you doing here?" Nick's heart quickened. Though they had shared a bond that transcended words, years of choices had stretched that bond thin. "Nick, you need to listen." Her voice broke, and her eyes glimmered with unshed tears. "I've been thinking about everything about us. You can't hide your art even from me." The crowd shifted, sensing the emotional gravity of the moment. Nick felt a swell of guilt rise in him. "I didn't mean to leave you behind," he said softly, glancing at Sarah for support, her eyes urging him on. Mia took a step inside, and the door finally clicked shut behind her. "You left to chase your dreams, but in that, you left me to clean up the mess you made, and I don't want to fight anymore. We're family." With those words, all the years of hurt and separation flooded back, the guilt he had buried deep within himself. They weren't just estranged siblings, they were casualties of his ambition, victims of the silent war he had waged against his own mistakes. "Do you even remember what it felt like to paint together?" she continued, her voice trembling with emotion. "When Mom and Dad were around, we were untouchable. But then, you took off." Nick swallowed hard. Every brush stroke he had made since had been laden with regret. "I do remember," he murmured. "But I thought if I could become someone, maybe I could fix everything. I could fix us too." "Nick, you can't fix the past. You have to face it." Her eyes bore into his, challenging him to acknowledge the truth. The audience, a mixture of friends and strangers, began to lean closer. It was a moment that felt monumental. In that second, everything shifted again inside him. pushing him to confront the very core of his artistic identity. By running away, he had left not just Mia, but also the inspirations that shaped him. The truth he had chased had eluded him, but it was standing right in front of him now. Nick's gaze flicked toward his former mentor, who watched with a knowing expression. You were right. To move forward, I have to go back. To the truth. Mia stepped closer, her voice low enough for him to hear, a gentle whisper amidst the tension. Let the pain out, Nick. It's time. As he looked back at the crowd, he realized they weren't just passive spectators, they were witnesses, ready to embrace his truth. Suddenly, the thoughts of judgment faded. This was about healing, for him and for Mia. It was about unearthing the pain together. Nick opened his mouth to share what had been corseted in shadows far too long, but before he could speak, a sudden cry pierced the gallery, cutting through the emotional haze. No. You can't. It was Carla, shattering the moment like glass, her face twisted in horror. Her interjection threw everything into disarray. Nick turned, confusion swelling. What could possibly make her react like this? Fear beckoned at the edges of his mind, and in that split second, he understood, the moment he had feared was at hand. Would the truth bring him closer to his dreams or shatter them altogether? With everything hanging in the balance, Nick hesitated again, heart pounding. Would he risk it all just to paint a picture of reality, and then, as if on cue, another loud crash reverberated. This time, the crowd gasped, eyes widening in disbelief. What or who else could be waiting in the wings? Would this newcomer represent another truth he wasn't ready to face? Silence engulfed the gallery as Nick's heart raced. The tension felt tangible, thickening the air around him. He shifted his gaze from Mia to Carla, who stood flanked by startled patrons, her cheeks flushed with urgency. What could have conjured such dread? Then, the chaos erupted. A figure burst onto the scene. It was Alex, Nick's old rival, but more importantly, a ghost from the past that had always loomed over Nick's dreams. He hadn't seen Alex in years, but the memories yanked him back to a time filled with rivalry, bitterness, and unresolved conflict. Stop it. You can't. Alex shouted, struggling against the crowd as he moved to intercept Nick. Don't do this, man. You'll regret it. Mia stepped forward, shielding Nick with her presence. What are you doing here, Alex? This is not your moment. Alex's eyes darted around, frantically searching for understanding, but all the noise was overwhelming. You don't get it. He continued, raising his voice. You're opening doors that should stay shut. There are things you don't know. Nick stood frozen, every part of him torn between confronting the past with Mia and officially stepping into whatever dark truth Alex hinted at. His body trembled as the weight of the moment pressed down on him. Had he truly been running from something bigger than his own choices? Then tell me. He found his voice, and it echoed through the gallery. What is it I don't know? The crowd, now fully engaged, held their breath. Carla's worry transformed into a fierce expression of purpose. This is not about him. Nick, don't listen. But Alex wasn't backing down. He stepped forward, his desperation palpable. It's about more than you can imagine, Nick. The remnants of our paths are entwined in ways you don't even understand. Nick's mind raced. He looked to Mia, and in that fleeting moment, he saw the weight she carried, the wounds she had healed alone, the damages he had inflicted unwittingly. Knowing that the past haunted both of them nearly crushed him. Every choice has a consequence, brother, Mia whispered, her voice softening the tension. Opening those doors doesn't just affect you. The room swelled with mixed emotions: curiosity, fear, intrigue. Nick tried to reconcile his past failures with the man he'd become. Could he unearth the truth about himself without tearing down what remained of their fragile relationship? What are you talking about, Alex? Nick snapped, his voice hoarse. What is it that I need to face? But Alex hesitated, eyes darting between Mia and Nick, as if weighing the risks. Just then, a second crash echoed through the gallery, louder this time. This rippled through the crowd, sending gasps and whispers of confusion soaring higher. Enough! Nick bellowed, fighting for control. A part of him craved the chaos to subside, to focus on his sister and her faithful support. But the rest yearned for clarity. Face it, Nick. Alex shouted over the din, you can't hide from your truth, even if it means tearing everything down. With this proclamation, the room was caught in a tense standstill, breaths held in unison. Nick locked onto the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him, each moment teetering on the precipice of revelation or destruction. Mia stepped closer again, eyes full of understanding. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Nick looked at the crowd, sensing their collective heartbeats. The moment urged him forward, it demanded he let the truth unfurl. But was he ready to meet the reality of what had been left unsaid? Could this broken bond be mended through the unveiling of their intertwined past? As he prepared to step into the fray, a powerful certainty flooded him, the truth would not just change him. It was about to change them all. And just as Nick opened his mouth to reveal his truth, the door crashed open again, revealing an unexpected presence, someone whose arrival would undeniably alter the course of everything that would follow. Who was this new player, and how deep did their connection to Nick's story run? The door swung open with a force that sent a ripple through the already thunderous crowd. There stood Naomi, Nick's long-lost friend and fellow artist, her eyes wide and tear-streaked, as though she had just clawed her way from an abyss. The room halted in collective silence, every gaze now fixed on her. Nick! She cried, her voice raw and trembling, fighting to break through the thick tension. Please, you have to listen. What are you doing here, Naomi? Nick questioned, shock mingling with a torrent of emotions. Memories of shared dreams and faded friendships rushed back, intertwining with the pain and longing he had buried. This isn't the time. I know that, but it's never going to be the right time if you keep running. Her words hung in the air like a lifeline. We need to confront this together, all of us. This isn't just about you anymore. Carla's laughter echoed in wicked delight. Another ghost to haunt you? Great. Her disdain bounced off the walls, but the crowd didn't respond to her taunts now. They seemed enamored by Naomi's intensity, her passion igniting a flame of curiosity and empathy. Nick, we all have our stories, Naomi continued, stepping further into the room. But yours is still unfinished. You can't let the past trap you. You've hidden from it for too long. A wave of feeling crashed into Nick. He looked at Mia beside him, her face reflecting the turmoil mixed with newfound hope. Her presence softened the storm within him. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a reunion. A chance to rebuild their tangled histories. His gaze swept the gallery. The crowd stood eager, faces alight with curiosity, hearts open. They wanted to see him, to understand. Encouragement flowed from Sarah's look, encouraging him to dig deep. He could sense that this moment carried the weight of change, not just for him, but for everyone in that room. Naomi, Nick began, but the world around him seemed to spark with shared memories, unvoiced sorrows, and regrets. A gentle hand pressed against his back. It was Sarah, offering reassurance that told him he wasn't alone in this. Together. Mia added, her voice a balm that soothed the wound of isolation. Whatever it is, we face it together. Taking a deep breath, Nick straightened, letting the air feel heavy in his lungs before letting it out. You're right, Naomi. I've let my fears silence me long enough. He turned back toward the crowd, heart pounding like thunder. I chose to escape because I thought pursuing my dreams meant burying my past. There was an urgency in his voice that mirrored the turmoil within. A flicker of connection shimmered back. The memories and wounds shared with Naomi and Mia pressed against him, each one a stepping stone towards the truth he had concealed. But running doesn't change what I've done. I need to own it. His heart raced as he faced the whispers and murmurs that surged forward, hungry for more. Years ago, I hurt those I loved, he continued, his voice steadying with resolve. I prioritized my ambition over our dreams. I became a shadow of who I was meant to be. The depths of my choices created walls that separated us. As he spoke, he could feel years of shame and isolation begin to peel away like paint from a canvas. I lost my way, and I forgot the beauty of connection, the very thing that fuels art. We're in this together, aren't we? He glanced around the faces that were now leaning in, eager to partake in this sacred moment. Art should be a bridge, not a barricade. It's about the laughter, the tears, and the journeys we've shared. One by one, the crowd reacted. A few clapped, eyes glistening with recognition, others nodded, feeling the truth resonate within them. Nick felt the weight of their support, even in vulnerability. Carla's expression morphed from ridicule to confusion. What once seemed an advantageous position now appeared precarious as the tide shifted. Nick's heart soared through the fissures of fear. This was more than a revelation, it was liberation, a gift shared among all of them. Emboldened, Nick looked back at Naomi, his words carrying the gravity of their shared past. You taught me that art can't flourish in silence. I forgot to listen. With a courage that felt unfamiliar yet exhilarating, he took another breath, urging his heart to sing freely. We owe it to each other. To be seen, to hear each other's truths, and to let that symphony of life spark our art. It's time to wake up and embrace the beauty of vulnerability. The crowd erupted in applause, filling the air with energy that felt electric. Every clap resonated in his chest, lifting him closer to a belief he thought lost. As the echoes of warmth surged through him, he could see Naomi and Mia smiling with tears in their eyes, unity shimmering between them. In that moment, he realized he had transformed not only in their gaze but also in his own heart. This was his moment of rebirth, one that would ripple through Cedar Springs. Together, Nick raised his voice again, fabricating an unbreakable link with the audience. Let's make art that isn't afraid. We create for the connections, for the moments that lace our lives together. This isn't just about me, it's about all of us. As the applause crescendoed, the past released its grip, turning whispers of judgment into a unified call for healing. Nick glanced at Sarah, who beamed with pride, and then to Carla, who stood frozen, a mix of emotions passing across her face, but he didn't feel the same fear anymore. He saw a new collaboration unfolding, art rising from the ashes of their shared experiences and pain. Together, they filled the gallery with the light of newfound hope, creating a space where doubts faded in the warmth of creativity, where every shared story could lead to a greater masterpiece. They were no longer just an audience but a community bound by fragile beauty and raw truth, ready to step into the future together. As he took in the moment, Nick whispered, "This is just the beginning." In that instant, he understood that transformed dreams become a collective journey. And he had taken the first step forward. The magic of community surged like a wave, calling each viewer to embrace the healing. This was a moment worth celebrating, not just as a new chapter in his life but as the dawning of a movement, an undeniable canvas painted with the colors of connection, healing, and the promise of tomorrow. New beginnings awaited. Now let's make it happen. Don't wait. You need to subscribe now to follow the next chapters. Where will this new journey lead? Make sure to leave a like to fuel this movement. Comment your thoughts and feelings on this transformation, and share this experience with at least 5 friends who need to witness this rebirth. Together, let us keep weaving this tapestry of stories that bring hope and healing.